have to admit that apart from one thing that I really liked about Little Fockers, I was kind of disappointed by this film. So, a brief overview of my recent experience with this series. I rewatched Meet the Parents, and I kind of liked it more than I did the first time. But I was really only watching it because I'd never seen Meet the Fockers, and I wanted to watch it. So I immediately watched that afterwards and kind of liked it. Enough that I was at least curious to watch Little Fockers. I thought there would be, a lot of comedy surrounding children, and that it would have maybe a kind of different dynamic. And I have to say, it's really kind of disappointing. There are some moments in this that are quite nice, but ultimately that's not the case. So yes, there are children in this. Basically, they now have twins, who don't look like twins. One of them's much shorter than the other. There is a joke in this about in there about that. But basically, Pam and Greg have these two children, absolutely fantastic. They have an upcoming birthday party. The children are in this for about 10 minutes. I don't know if that's factually correct, but they're not in it for a long period of time. And I feel like they missed a trick with bringing a lot of humour in through them. A lot of it is still revolving around the relationships between the Byrnes family and the Focker family, which is something that I find quite interesting because, well, the cast is brilliant. And I do think that De Niro was amazing in this. But ultimately, not a lot happens. Some of it is about, how do I say it? Something happens to Jack Byrnes, played by Robert De Niro. I won't say what, but he then realizes that the next in line to take over his duty as the patriarch of the family is Greg Focker, as much as he doesn't want to admit it. And he's talking to Greg about how he has to become the God Focker, and the kind of duties he will have to perform once Jack is no longer around. And I kind of like that aspect of Jack realising he has to one day pass the baton to his son-in-law. And there is kind of a greater acceptance here for Greg as a son-in-law than there was in the previous film. And I think out of all of the characters, Jack has had the greatest character development. He hasn't completely lost who he is as an individual, but still you can see there has been some progress made, and that's something that I really enjoyed and I was really pleased with, and I was glad they did that, because if they'd still kept the same level of animosity, I think it would have dragged on a bit. There is a little bit of humour surrounding the twins when they are trying to get into this really elite school. I believe it's called the Early Human School. Very expensive, very private school. And they have kind of interviews there, very different interview styles for both children. And that was kind of entertaining, but beyond that, they don't really contribute much. They're not really very well written into the narrative. Now, given it's called Little Fockers, I was kind of really surprised by that, and not in a good way. Not much else happens. For me, it's definitely more about the relationship between Jack and Greg, which in some ways is fine because I do like both of those characters and I like the way they've both developed. Jack more so. But I just think they missed a trick with bringing in quite a bit more humour involving the children, the way that maybe Jack interacted with the children, or maybe problems that the children caused. But none of that was present, and I don't really understand what the point of them was. This narrative, well, maybe the narrative couldn't have existed exactly as it is if the children weren't there, because then Jack wouldn't really have the same kind of epiphany with needing to pass on the baton to the father of his grandchildren. But certainly they don't play that much of an important role, which is a bit of a shame. But ultimately, I like the message in this. I like the development of the characters. I just think the narrative was a complete disappointment. They completely missed an opportunity to bring in a different kind of humour. Because let's face it, the previous two films didn't do amazingly well. I thought they were okay, but generally the reception was not, perfect. I'm surprised they made it to a third film. I'd be surprised if they made it to a fourth film. It's an alright film. I didn't hate watching it, but certainly I think they could have done a lot more with it. I don't think they could have done without it, because I do think that Jack Byrnes as a character reached a really pivotal point here. And I really thoroughly enjoyed De Niro's performance. Obviously, the casting is what drives this forward. Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Dustin Hoffman, Barbara Streisand, Teri, Polo, Kevin Hart. The twins are also, very well acted. I have to point out that there is absolutely nothing wrong with their performances. I thought they were very sweet, and again, partly explains why I felt like they were just underused. They could have brought a lot more to this and made it a lot more interesting. It's a bit of a disappointment. It's not terrible, but Little Fockers is definitely not what it could have been.